one thing that we really wanted to do is to make sure that we balance the centralized governance with regional autonomy, enabling agility while maintaining enterprise discipline.
Okay, Andrew, this episode, it's phenomenal. I don't know how we're so lucky to be able to talk with people that are just exceptional in this field, and this is no exception. What are some of your favorite moments? What struck you about this episode with May?
So I'm lucky to get a lot of time with May, but this one still impressed me, and I was just amazed by the depth that she has. I don't know. There's so many great moments. Personally, my favorite is when she describes her organization in great depth and like the sustain function and then the grow function, and how she understands, like in the field everyone's trying to understand these different kinds of AI, and she just lays it all out in use case after use case, and that was just awesome.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. There's this, and I've always known this about May, but having this conversation, it just blows my mind. This is the most sought after balance. She has this natural balance of curiosity, and you can see that, like, just her ability to understand and this curiosity in this space, and still having to ground that against governance, and this has to actually be implemented. It's inspiring. It truly is inspiring. So all right, let's not hold back. Let's get everybody into it.
Let's do it. Let's go.
All right. Well, we're excited to welcome May Yap to the show, an accomplished global technology executive who currently serves as Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer at Jabil. With a career spanning more than 2 decades and leadership roles at IBM, PwC, and Oracle, May brings deep experience in orchestrating complex digital transformations across industries, geographies, and functions. At Jabil, she oversees enterprise-wide IT and digital operations for more than 100 manufacturing sites across 25 countries, enabling smart, connected, and AI-powered systems at scale. From leading Jabil's multi-year SAP S/4HANA modernization to scaling computer vision, predictive analytics, and generative AI across the enterprise, May has been instrumental in aligning people, data, and priorities to unlock measurable business value. Her approach to transformation is both strategic and deeply human, grounded in systems thinking, empowered teams, and sustainable innovation. In this episode, we'll explore how May and her team are driving enterprise-wide AI adoption through strong data governance, cross-functional collaboration, and a relentless focus on value. We'll also dive into her leadership philosophy, the role of the CIO in global manufacturing, and what it takes to scale digital transformation without sacrificing local innovation. May, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jennifer, thank you very much for having me on this podcast. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks so much, May. I mean, you have a beyond impressive background. Those senior roles at IBM, PwC, Jabil. Last decade, you've led an amazing transformation across Jabil, more than 100 sites, massive enterprise. I guess take us back early on. Like, what inspired you on this journey to get into digital and enterprise leadership? And maybe a 2-part question. A little bit. How has your perspective transformed over the years too?
Yeah, I think, well, Andrew, nice to meet you, right? So Andrew and I have gone a long way. That's really good to actually hear your voice again and see you. So coming back to that, I think when Andrew was talking about my journey, about moving from one company to the other company, that shows how long I've been in the industry, right? So to be exact, that's probably about 32 years that I've been spending in the industry. So I think what takes me into this, from IT strategy to enterprise and doing what we are doing today, the journey itself is actually quite a natural process, right? So I started off from being a management consulting, so advising our clients on corporate strategy. So come the .com days, where everything is moving from brick to mortar to actually .com, right? So you actually see corporate strategy actually evolving itself into digital strategy. And that is actually a very natural path that actually kind of take me more and more into, going into using the corporate strategy and starting to actually do the digitalization or doing the digital transformation per se.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
What are the main, differences, like having gone through that strategic consulting background and now being a CIO leader, like what do you think are the main deltas in the perspective that brings to digital transformation?
Yeah. So I thought the management consulting experience is really a good prelude to what I'm doing today, right? So when you're working as a management consultant, people consult you, you advise, you give a solution. So you don't really see it through for the implementations. But when you actually come into the role of a CIO, right, you still do the same old thing, right? You actually look at the business problem, you provide a solution, but now you're also a salesman to actually sell your solution to the different functions that is actually probably at a point in time they probably do not like it or they like it. So there's a lot of selling, there's a lot of negotiation, there's a lot of collaboration that we need to work with the business users. And then to actually really implementation, right? You can't eat your own dog food. When you advise, you actually tell them about the big dream, the blue sky picture that you're trying to sell. But when you're actually implementing, you need to make sure that whatever you sell is actually coming to fruition. So I kind of see it as a end-to-end path, right? That you eat your dog food by doing what you say you're going to do and making sure that you deliver the results to your stakeholders.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I actually kind of maybe a little along that same vein then, May. I mean, I think about the enormity of the system that you're overseeing. And I think, looking at, you have diversity across, 30 countries, it's a $25 billion enterprise, right? That is no small feat. How then have you structured? We hear a lot about this from CIOs. I really want to hear your perspective on this. How have you structured your leadership approach to keep such a large and diverse organization focused, motivated? You talked about that just a minute ago, and moving the right direction, moving toward the vision.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, right? It's a big scale, it's a big team that we are managing here. So with such a big team, that's actually a few things that personally for me, right, which I find really helpful. So as a CIO, one thing that I actually do wanted to do is to make sure that I actually work collaboratively with my stakeholders. I think that's one thing that's for sure. So the leadership team, the leadership characteristic of what I see is important when I actually go into this role is to make sure that I collaborate, I listen, I'm an active listener, right? I understand the business problem, and then make sure that while we actually understand what's the business problem that we are trying to solve and having to manage such a big team, a diverse team across the world. So it is very important that one thing that we really wanted to do is to make sure that we balance the centralized governance with regional autonomy, enabling agility while maintaining enterprise discipline, right? So one thing that, with my team, what we are trying to do is we're trying to empower more to our regional team. We're trying to empower more to our site team, and actually have the central team or the corporate team actually doing a role on providing guardrail, but yet democratizing what we can actually to the site and to the regional team. So, let me take an example, right? Just looking at the use of data, the use of AI right now. Everybody is super excited. Everybody is overwhelmed, and they wanted to actually dive right into, hey, I want to create an AI project. I have some good AI, mindsets that I wanted to actually do. So it actually comes a lot from bottoms up, from our side, from our technician, from even our operator. Many people have a lot of good ideas, and this is actually the culture in manufacturing, right? You really wanted the continuous improvement that comes up. But for me, it is also important that while we actually encourage all this innovation and all these good ideas coming from bottoms up, so what are the guardrails that I need to actually set it forward for the team to make sure that, hey, nobody is actually taking the Jabil data out and load it into the internet, right? So I think that's a no-no. So we are very clear about what is the AI policy that needs to be implemented. We educate, we actually share, we actually create the awareness that people knows the guardrail that they can actually play within. right? Then we also provide the tech stack, the technology stack that they can actually bring their use case with guidance from our team to actually do it properly. So that's what I meant by a centralized governance, but we kind of democratize and actually kind of empower the regional and site team to do things because they are the one that have the innovation and the right ideas.
I just want to tee off that because we're definitely in this AI boom moment.
Yeah.
I was at a Gartner CEO Silicon Valley event yesterday, and I
Right.
wondered if we were going to quote, Sam Altman just said, we're in a bubble, and I wondered if they were going to say, hold back people, but it was just AI, 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 right?
Yeah.
And so you were talking about this awesome bottom-up swelling of people all across Jabil bringing AI ideas, and then you playing the role of security, making sure the data and the policies are in place, playing the role of standard tech stack. How do you play the role of picking what to invest in as well? And there's finance and HR and operations, supply chain, I guess, and maybe holistically too. Like, how do you see the role of the CIO amidst this AI boom? To where is it the traditional IT role just applied to the next technology? Where might it be different as well?
Yeah, a lot of questions right there. But okay, let me just dissect each one of them, right? So I think one of the first thing that I wanted to talk about is really probably the role of the CIO first, right? Especially in the AI boom. So I was also speaking in the conference in San Francisco for the last few days. And I think no different from you, Andrew. Everybody is talking about AI, right? So it's a little bit like AI overload. But if you actually come, think through it, it is actually, AI is inevitable. But how do we actually do AI in a very um in a very sensible way, in a responsible way? I think that's what's important, right? And I think you and I have every part to play in that to actually guide the industry, to guide the people on how to do it. So first of all, I told the team, right, and when I share my experience is that first of all, CIO cannot just think like a CIO, right, or the traditional CIO. The role of CIO has definitely evolved. We are actually an enabler, right? So CIO actually is providing that enabling job. We are the change agent in all this transformation right now. So everything that we think about, right, what is the right AI tools to invest? What is the AI projects to actually invest? So we need to think from the perspective of the business user. What kind of business problems are we trying to solve here? Which is the business problem that is actually going to benefit the most for my people, right? What is the things that is going to do that is actually dramatically going to change the industry and bring the better good for the industry as a whole? So I think those are the key aspects that we need to be thinking, right? So the technology is always the easy part. So I'm not worried about technology. We have many hyperscaler and many vendors, including yourself, that's providing us with good technology. I think the key thing here is really think like the business user, think about what problem to solve. And I think in Jabil, we actually do it in a more systematic way, right? So 3 years ago, I actually set up this council called the Data and AI Council, right? So the Data and AI Council actually recruits senior people, which I actually handpick from every function, every BU. They send a senior representative to join the Data and AI Council. So we started like 3 years ago because we already knew that, hey, we actually need to embark on AI. Data is the foundation, right? So we started by talking about data. We started to actually educate first the council member that, hey, IT doesn't own data, right? IT is your custodian of data. So you, as the global process owner, you who creates the data, you own the data and you have to answer for your own data, right? So we all know that garbage in, garbage out, right? Whatever data that you actually load and use it, let's make sure that we put it out to everybody that we want our data to be fair, right? FAIR is an acronym for making sure that the data is findable, right? They are accessible, they are interoperable, and most importantly, they are reusable. So only when we actually have data to be fair, then we can talk about the next step on how to use the data. So those are the education that we can provide to the Data AI Council member. They have to appoint their own data owner to actually clean the data, work with us, and then with us putting out the tech stack, right, or the guideline on how to cleanse your data, where to put your data, what is the centralized data marketplace. that we have provided for everybody, then we can actually talk about the next step on where to invest in AI, right? So we are a manufacturing company. I think what's super important for us is that we are very, very thoughtful about where we want to invest in AI. So they are in 3 key areas. So 3 years ago, we decided on that, right? And 3 years looking into for the progress that we have made, I think we have decided on the right 3 areas that we wanted to be in. So the first area talk about AI computer vision solution, right? So they are actually AI solution coupled with smart camera, right, in the small form factor devices that we actually put into our shop floor, right, and make sure that it can actually augment our inspectors who are doing cosmetic inspection, make sure that they can actually be used to actually help us along the quality control for manufacturing, right? So it's basically a baseline right now, and we have all the regions actually using this AI computer vision solution. So that's definitely the right area that we wanted to invest in, and we have been doing that. Then the second area is actually looking at machine learning, right? So we started the journey by cleaning the data, putting things into governed data platform so that we have a centralized data marketplace. Even though we're still working on it, right? I must admit, we're still working on it, but we do actually have a lot of clean data packs and data products that's available right now. So with that, we can actually really look at our data and let data speak and let data act for us, right? So that's a lot about using data, advanced data analytics, the machine learning work that we are doing. And there's quite a few that we are doing on forecasting, be it financial forecasting, demand forecasting, supply forecasting. So that's a lot on forecasting that needs the algorithm to actually help us do forecasting. We are also looking at using machine learning to improve the quality of our chemical components for our products, right? So that's a good combination on how we use data to actually drive better quality product. So that's the second category. And then the third category is, well, everybody's working on it. So I think we kind of have the foresight that 3 years ago, we are already saying that, hey, we need to actually be working on Gen AI, right? And Gen AI actually evolved into agentic AI. So we are in that natural path to actually build the Gen AI platform for the team, and then actually identify what are the right, if you look across the manufacturing ecosystem, what are the right things that we can actually start to think through. And that's where we can actually put in agents to actually help us do our work. So it's a long way to answer your question, but actually, I think that
Awesome.
helps to explain.
Yeah, no, you demonstrated it. I think that's the mark of a leader. It's like, you don't just tell, you show. And you really demonstrated the different role of the CIO. I was like reflecting as you were saying it. We've got to spend a lot of time together, which I always love. I'm so grateful for. And I won't call this a bad thing at all, but one of the funny things I think you've done to me, May, is I'll go to another manufacturer sometime and I'll just go to the CIO and I'll just kick off a conversation about what we should build and what we should drive. And sometimes there's some other good CIOs out there, but sometimes they're like, I'm here to just audit your SOC 2 and block you, and it's just like, it just doesn't compute. Or this kind of, what you just said, like computer vision, machine learning, Gen AI, you listed off, I don't know, 10 different use cases across these, super precise. And other people are still just like, what's the difference between Gen AI and machine learning? I don't know. So yeah, that was awesome. I think you're living it. Anyone listening like saw that. And yeah, it's not common yet in the CIO office, but it's so critical. So
Yeah,
that
I
was
think that's a changing point where CIO can really evolve themselves, right? From just dealing with computers, and those are important. Don't get me wrong, right? Those are super important, but they are the table stake. You have to do all that and break no operation. I think that's what I've always been reminded. Break no operation. That's the fundamental of a CIO role. But you have to actually go beyond that to actually create value for the organization.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Jennifer, that reminds me, you were talking before about how this change in CIOs reporting to the CEO too. That was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. That's exactly what's kind of going on in my head as I'm listening to May. And before I get into that, you said something just a second ago between the two of you. And then May, your response was, as you were going through the three of the AI and data team that you've got, the third one with Gen AI. And I loved it just so naturally. You said, yeah, and then building Gen AI and how we use it naturally, of course, that becomes agentic AI. I'm like, that is not natural for everyone to just understand. And I love that you're in that space where, yeah, of course, like I love that. So it's interesting because, I remember a few years ago, I was listening to another CIO of a very, very large company. Everybody knows the name of it. And just fascinated at her recollection of the transformation of the role of the CIO, much like what you've described here for the last few minutes, how you really have to become understand the business and become one of the business owners and make sure that you're supporting that and understanding that. I think recently I read something like 63% of CIOs now report directly to the CEO, which again, that kind of underscores that's a pretty big shift over the last 10 years and underscores that same thought. I think it's no surprise to you. Everyone's been talking about the transformation, of the CIO. How do you then balance kind of what we were talking about a minute ago? How do you balance that strategic and that governance, building that longer term digital architecture with the operational demands still accommodating the immediate operational demands of the global manufacturing network?
Right. I think that's a really, really relevant question. But Jennifer, to the contrary, right? I was just reading another article and it says the opposites right now, right? So there are still a lot of CIO who are not having a sit in the boardroom, not being able to actually push forward to in front of the leadership team, right? And I think that kind of actually reflect some reality too, because maybe in some company they do not see the value of what the CIO is doing and how it should actually be influencing the business, right? But coming back to what you're saying, so I talk about the role of the change in the CIO, which I think is super important, right? But do not forget that we also have the operational role, the day-to-day role, right? So it all come back to making sure that we know what are the key objectives that we wanted to achieve or deliver in the IT team. So take, for example, I'll just share within the Jabil IT organization. So one thing that we have is we're very clear, right? Again, we're manufacturing company, and just like many audience here, we are all manufacturing company. So in the manufacturing company, what is most important is the factory, right? So for me, we have a dedicated team that looks after the factory, work with the operation, work with the site on a day-to-day basis. So Zidi, who is actually the leader for me to lead this factory team, he looks after the infrastructure, he looks after the network, he looks after our email account, he looks after everything that is running for Jabil in the campus and also in the factory. So that's one thing that he needs to enable, right? He needs to make sure that no operation. We need to ensure uptime for operation. He needs to think about the right solution that continuously make the factory runs effectively, make sure that we are always up and running, right? So that's one job that he does. So because he looks after the factory, he is also dedicated to actually manage all the factory related enterprise systems, right? So he looks after MES, he looks after the quality system, he looks after the PRI. He needs to make sure that when we look at the entire manufacturing ecosystem, he has all that and he has been empowered to do that. So that's a part of what he does, right? So super important. Factory needs to be enabled. Factory needs to be running cost efficiently and effectively. So he will need to come back with solution. He needs to work very, very closely with his counterpart in the site, in corporate, in operation, to make sure that he actually is plugged into every single situation. It's a big role, right? So that actually helped us to make sure that operation is up and running. So I call it the run and maintain, super important. But we also have the transform and grow, right? So why I say that, well, CIO role needs to be more engaging, be more business-like mind. So we also actually work very closely with the business team, right? So I have dedicated what I call the business enterprise manager, who are no other than the business IT partner. So they continue to educate our business users on, this is what IT can do. This is all the new progress that we have. We also receive feedback from BU. We also receive their demands from BU, and then they will bring it to our center of excellence that provide different kind of IT solution to the business guys to the operation. So for example, AI is one of the COE that I run, and then cybersecurity is another COE that I run. So think of it as a hub and spoke model, right? So they will actually go get the demand back, and they will kind of distribute it out to the COE to actually go deliver it at the best quality at the best price, right? So it's a little bit like a consulting model right here, right? They go out to sell their service, and they bring it back, and they need to supervise that the colleagues are actually doing the best job. So not sure, Jennifer, if I'm answering your question right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you answered another one that I was hoping that we would get to, which was, hey, drop me, let's look inside of the factory. And you went through a bunch of that. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to build on that. So we talked about your role. We talked about your background from strategic consulting to CIO, leading across the board, this AI boom that we're in. You then just talked about this, not everyone is reporting to the CEO and rising. You mentioned a bit about how your org was structured, which was really interesting. And you talked about these pillars, you're supporting the factories and you're driving new business change. And you get computer vision and machine learning and Gen AI. So I'm remembering under the machine learning pillar, you were talking about the data marketplace.
Yeah.
And I know how much you think about data foundations and AI foundations. And so I wanted to talk about that for a moment. And it's interesting maybe to think about global insights, but maybe just kind of starting like global standardized. Like, how are you thinking about data foundations and then AI foundations? What does good governance look like? And how do you see other organizations getting it wrong?
So let me share what we are doing, right? So, and probably for the organization, for other organization, that's where they can actually learn. I don't think anybody is doing it wrong, right? So I think we just need to be very clear in mind what do we want to achieve, right? So I think it's super important that we need to have governance in whatever that we are doing. People hates that, but that's the truth of life, right? You need to actually be guiding your users on what to do, what not to do, and how to do it, and yet provide a very good tool for actually doing it. So one thing to start off with, right, is we believe in good AI governance, right? And we work together with our legal/compliance team, cybersecurity team, my AI team, in conjunction to make sure that we set up good policy, right? Reasonable policy that all our employees actually understand, right? And they need to take time to understand what is this policy and why does it matter to them. We conduct education session to actually walk through the policy and walk through what we are doing. And after that, they need to sign off, right? So employee needs to sign off and actually acknowledge that, yes, I understand and I'm going to oblige to that. It is super important for us, right? Because it talks about our customer data. It talks about our proprietary data. So we wanted to make sure that all the data are actually in a good place. So that's the part on the governance and the policy first. Then the second thing that we do is to make sure that we continue to provide. Again, I'm speaking on behalf of IT, right? So it is important that when the organization or our users turn around and look at us, we do actually have the technology stack, the tools that are in place to help them do all that. So we roll out what we call data governance. We tell them what is data governance, why is it important to govern data, right? And then we provide them with the tools to actually help them create the data marketplace, right? We teach them how to catalog their data. We teach them on how to analyze the data. We teach them on linking data to their processes and what are critical data that needs to come into the data marketplace. So in a nutshell, I think a lot of what we are doing is a lot of hand-holding, education, creating awareness for our stakeholders so that they do not feel that, hey, this is thrown to them, they have to go fix it, right? We walk every step with them, providing them guidance and tools. And we will sit together with them to actually brainstorm on how to solution the problem, right?
Oh my gosh, I love this. I love hearing you. You could talk about this all day long because I love some of the things that I'm picking up that you're saying is, I think this is so important. I learned this a very long time ago. I love that you're very explicit about how governance is important. Governance is, but you said earlier, you said literally word for word, the quote that I say all the time, technology is the easy part, right? And then you talked about how important the governance is. And I love that, you know, governance, we all know this. Governance is about more than just policies and process. Those have to be there. And that's incredibly important. That's what makes people, those are the guidelines for people to follow. But you started with, I love when you said, I even wrote it down, we teach them the why. This is important. Why is it important to govern data? Why is it important to do those things? And then we walk with them every step of the way to make sure that it happens. And that is a piece that is, I think, sometimes spoken about more than it's actually really prioritized in an organization. If your people will understand why, then the policies and processes and procedures make state they welcome them because it helps them get in line with that vision, right?
Yeah.
So I want to bring up another one that I know that you've led. It's a big one, and I hear this for a lot from some of our colleagues in that have been in your shoes. Talk about the SAP migration.
Oh.
So 124 sites onto unified SAP backbone. I have a hard time conceptualizing that. That's huge, right? So talk me through that a little bit. What are some of the lessons that you learned? I know that there are a million people that are going to want to hear this answer to this question. What are some of the lessons that stood out to you integrating the enterprise systems with, you know, real factory operations? We talked about that. How did you maintain the shop floor continuity and, like we said, this global standardization?
Yeah, so that's definitely a massive project that we undertake, but it was about 2 years ago that we already done it, so that was a while ago, right? So it's a big bang migration from SAP ECC to SAP S/4HANA, right? So like what you rightfully say, it is massive, and then even through the migration exercise, I think if you think about it, it is a change management process, right? It's none other than a big, huge change management process. So we started the preparation exercise about 16 months ago, right? Before we actually fully cut over. So there is a lot of orchestrating. There's a lot of planning that actually goes in there. There's a lot of, it's a people exercise to start off with, right? So we assemble the best team that we have, right? Super important team that we have. So again, we call it Project Symphony. So that project actually has a name, Symphony, exactly to the point that symphony is because it is an orchestra, right? We are the orchestrator that pulls everybody together. We pull all the sites together. We pull all the users together. We give them clear guidance on how to do it. So we prepare 16 months ahead. So we continue to actually have what we call the monthly change management process, monthly education process to the users to actually continue to tell them that, hey, this is coming, this is coming, this is coming, and this is what you need to do, what you need to do, what you need to test, right? So every step of it is no different from what we talked about earlier. So it's a lot of communication. It's a lot of telling and keeping the user up to date on what to do. So those are more the difficult part, right? The technical part is the easy part. We work with good partners. We work with SAP. We work with our implementer. We have a very, very good team of capable architects that actually work alongside with them, right? So the technical part is not difficult, right? The difficult part is really telling the people why this is important, because to them it's a chore. I'm fine with all the T code, right? Why do I need to move? And we move really, really early. Like what I say, it's 24 months ago. So people actually kind of sometimes doubt, why do we need to move? Don't rock the boat if I don't have to, right? So when we actually undertake such a big migration, it's really the change process. Again, it come back to what I was talking about, right? IT is not just about doing technical migration. IT is about selling the idea, selling the vision, selling about what S4, right? And what Fiori, what capability, what cost effectiveness, what new functionality that we will be able to provide to our users after we actually migrate. So that's the part about selling, right? Convincing, holding their hands, giving them very clear instruction on what to do, and continue to keep them abreast of each step of the happening. And then fast forward, right, the time where we are actually about to cut over, I think the part that made me really proud about the team is that when we actually did the cut over, the team was able to actually do it through a big bang approach, right? So we didn't actually make it into a few phases. So it's a big bang approach. And we actually negotiated with all the factories to actually have a common downtime, right? And we work within the downtime period. And during that part in time, during that actual migration period, right? So we actually have our team stand by, right, in the office. So they were there like camping in the office for 48 hours, right? So thank you very much to the team. So they were actually camping there. Likewise, our vendor is also camping there. I have SAP VP and our sponsor, right, Peter Meyer, on my speed dial, right? Any steps in time, I can actually call SAP and say, hey, SAP, I need help, right? So it is a lot of working together and being vulnerable sometimes, being able to actually talk about the issue and actually get help immediately when we need it, right? And then having everybody understand the importance, everybody behind our back to actually do it. And we were very successful. There's no one order that was not being able to ship out after the Big Bang migration. So it is talking about several key factors, right? Shop floor continuity. I think that's super important. So for any CIO who is actually embarking on this journey right now, let's make sure that we negotiate very well, set the right expectation to your site, right, to your operation, to make sure that how you're going to make sure that the shop floor will continue to run. How do you protect the shop floor continuity, right? What is the global standardization that we're going to roll out as part of this migration? The change management is essential, right? So how do you actually put in the agile practices, ensure buy-in and minimize disruption? Last but not least, right, we actually migrated from a 50 years old called SAP that we have used. 50 years old might be an exaggeration, right? But it's definitely a decade old HANA database that we are migrating to S4, right? Sorry, not HANA, the relation database to HANA, right? So when we actually migrate to the new S4 database, we are talking about 18 terabytes, and that's still a huge number of data that we are migrating. So data governance is super important, and data governance must be embedded early, right? So the migration itself actually surfaced challenges around duplicated data sources, inconsistent reporting, which give us a very good platform to actually now go address it and actually have very good data foundation, right? So in a nutshell, those are the few things that I will actually advise the CIO to actually look out for.
Did you see the lifts at the end? You know, like reduced batch processing times, and you're able to see your inventories and your cash closes everywhere better now? And
Oh,
like
absolutely. Right, absolutely. So it does actually give a lot of the capabilities that we were looking out for, right? And it continued to improve, right? So one thing that I must give credit is, well, any transformation doesn't stop here. Likewise for S4 migration, right? And when we actually did that migration, we introduced new theory, we introduced new functionality. So those are being used. So we continue to do that process transformation, process improvement on a daily basis with our stakeholders, right? So they probably get sick and tired of me talking to them and sounding to them, hey, this is the new functionality that you need to explore. This is something that comes with what you already have, right? So let's explore it. Let's tear down the current process and let's see how the future state of this S4 functionality can actually beautifully actually eradicate 20 of your subsystem, and actually let's focus on this. So I continue to do that selling exercise with my team.
I'm sure you got rid of a lot of custom code, and then
Yeah.
that refactoring paves the way for new innovation technology.
Absolutely.
So I guess flipping back to the new here. So that was 2 years ago. You made that massive SAP for HANA migration. And then, in the last several years, you've been working on these data foundations and AI. And as somebody who has successfully implemented a lot of this leading stuff in, you articulated again, your computer vision, machine learning, Gen AI, like what's next in your eyes in AI and manufacturing?
Yeah, so it's timely that you asked, right? Because I've been asking my team that question, likewise the Jabil leadership team about that question too, right? So I think we have come to a point that we have enough POCs, right? We have proven out the value of the use cases from AI, be it from computer vision or from machine learning or Gen AI or agentic AI. So I think it is a time for us to move from POC, POV, right? I call them the science project, to really skilling them up, making sure that, AI is actually now embedded into our corporate strategy. So that's what I'm thinking, right? So it needs to now be embedded into a corporate strategy. So I came out with a very cheesy kind of AI vision that I told my CEO, hey, if you are actually committed to doing AI, which he is, right? The whole organization is, which I'm very fortunate I have the support from everyone. So our AI vision, first of all, needs to be incorporated into the corporate vision. So what I wanted to do is let's talk about AI vision, right? AI is here to help us do anything possible, everything better, and help our customer move anywhere that's quicker. So if we endorse on this three big vision that we want to collectively achieve through AI, then the next thing that we need to do is to reimagine how to do manufacturing, right? Because manufacturing will not be manufacturing anymore. And I think for all the audience who are out there listening, everybody will feel that, hey, while we are actually moving manufacturing back to America, it is not that easy. It's not that easy, right? Because it is difficult to actually recruit engineers. It's difficult to recruit technicians. It's difficult to even get workers. Let's say about having our employee come back to work. So having workers to come back to the factory environment every day, 24/7, is even more difficult. So it is difficult to actually get the traits in, get the right skill set in, get the knowledge in very quickly. So one thing that I'm starting to think through, right, is again, mapping out the entire manufacturing ecosystem from MPI process to, the build to ship, right, and build to forecast and all the and manufacturing ecosystem. So for every step that we are doing, so what are the job role skill set that AI can actually be used to augment it, right? So that we do not have to go out to hire these resources to start off with. I think that's super important. That's going to help us to actually, elevate from the labor crunch, right? That we can actually get the right people in time quickly. So if I'm able to actually start mapping out every steps, every job role skill set, and actually identify, hey, this is probably something that you can do use an agent to actually help you do it, right? Then that actually help us in building up the manufacturing system quickly. So that's one thing that I'm trying to do right now. A long way to your answer, but I thought it's interesting to share some of those thoughts.
Getting jump specific, getting really serious about those roles and not just talking about it, but directly tackling that labor crunch. It's fantastic. Well said. Okay, here come our rapid fire questions for you, May. First one, is there a book, movie, or TV series that inspires you when thinking about the future of manufacturing?
Great. So the movie that I really like is this movie called Electric Dream, which is a 1984 sci-fi romantic comedy with AI computer vision, EGA, a woman, a celloist, right, Megan, I think, and an architect, male, right? So the AI computer vision, the AI computer EGA, and the architect fell in love together with this woman, right? So it is a film that actually shows how AI is actually more than a tool. It starts to actually have the capability of love, jealousy, creativity, to a point that at the later stage he found out that, hey, he shouldn't do it. So he actually self-destroy himself.
Wow.
Yeah. It's an old show. I know you guys are young, right? But this is a really good show.
I'm gonna check it out for sure.
I was around then, May. I don't know how I missed it. I'm gonna have to pull this one up. Okay, so I'll switch up. Which leader or innovator in technology or engineering do you admire the most and why?
Right. Bill Gates, he really stand out for how he's not just a technologist, right? So I think he really leads and he built tech empire, but he also built bridges to better health, education, equity, innovation, and empathy. So that's one guy that really stand out.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Absolutely.
What piece of technology outside of manufacturing has had the most impact on your life?
It must be your smartphone, right? It turned out that every person now is using the smartphone, right? It is a communicator, it's a data point, it's a mini computer.
Yeah, it's true. It's amazing. All right, I don't know how you're going to answer this one, May, but let's see if it's even possible. If you could instantly acquire any new skill or knowledge area, what would it be?
I think it's really emotional intelligence, right? So I cannot compete with AI and automation. They're way too smart. But I think it's the emotion that we need to actually get better and actually be able to lead with more empathy, lead with more adjacency, right? It's really that emotion EQ.
May, there's so many people watching this and out there who admire your career and where you're at and are asking, like, how could I possibly get there? In a few words, like, what advice would you give to young IT, digital transformation professionals who are just starting out today?
Sure. I think don't just learn the technology, learn the people, right? I think the future actually belongs to those who can connect systems and the hearts and the people together.
That was awesome. May, thank you so much for coming on the pod. This was a fantastic conversation, and I continue to love each time we get to chat together and explore these ideas. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.